All right, so today I wanted to make a video on AMD versus Nvidia or NVDA. These are two of the more popular semiconductor stocks. Not the biggest, but Taiwan Semiconductor would be the biggest. But I believe they're both in the hundreds of billions for market cap. Actually, let's just double check and see. Yeah, 115 for AMD. I know Nvidia is a little bigger, I think so. Both over 100 billion, very large companies. So these companies have both came down a lot over the last year or so, roughly. Let's take a quick look and see exactly how far they've came down, just for curiosity's sake. So we're looking at, I mean, the AMD was down about 63% at one point. Now they're down about 55 roughly. So again, very large drawdown. Let's check out Nvidia here. So Nvidia, they were down about 65. They're down about 49 at the moment. So very similar numbers as far as that goes. Nvidia is actually a lot larger, 415 billion. So again, probably about 3 times the size there. So let's just get right into comparing them here. I mean, the first thing that I would mention here is that I wouldn't be a buyer at either of these companies at the current prices, and I will get into where I would be buying them. So again, if we look at these two stocks compared, Nvidia is the better company, although you would have, based on current prices, you got to pay a lot more to get Nvidia. Nvidia's current price to free cash flow is 86. AMD's is 33, so it's way higher. Price to sales of 14.6, which is just crazy for Nvidia. So this is a company that's came down a lot, but still is very, very expensive. AMD, moderately expensive. AMD's actually grown a lot better over the past. Again, Nvidia up 207%, AMD up 468, which is just insane. Nvidia also did start paying a small dividend, against literally 0.1%, so nothing significant at the moment. So again, analysts project AMD to have a lot better year over the next year. Revenue is expected to go down for Nvidia. Dividends, again, we don't really care about. AMD doesn't pay one at the moment. Nvidia has a better balance sheet for sure. They have a current ratio of 3.39, which is good. AMD 2.16, but the difference here, AMD is buying back shares. Nvidia is buying back shares. AMD just issued a lot of new shares. So that's something that I would be very concerned about when it comes to AMD, the fact that they're issuing that many shares, which is just utterly insane. Growth, AMD is actually a little bit better there, although profitability, there's a very clear nod to Nvidia there. Same goes for returns, and then like I mentioned earlier, valuation, AMD, so they're both expensive, but Nvidia is just crazy expensive. And I did mention that I would get into valuations where, again, obviously my opinion, but where I think these could be buys or potential buys. So let's go into the freeform tool here, and then hopefully it'll load quicker and we will compare the numbers. So let's pull up AMD as well. So this is going back to 2014, so almost 10 years. So again, average price to free cash flow for AMD's is actually higher than Nvidia's, which is kind of weird considering AMD is cheaper at the moment. AMD's average is 74 over that time, currently 33.6, like I said. Nvidia's current average is 44, current is 86. The other thing to mention here too is the Nvidia's had a much better risk premium over that time too, although their current one is worse. And what that means is simply the 10-year bond divided by the earnings yield, right? So both of these companies do have issues there that is a little concerning. But if you see, these companies have had periods of weird volatility. So let's just get rid of that. Let's go for the last 3 years, which you notice it kind of smooths out here. So The lowest AMD has gotten over that time is 27.45. Nvidia, the lowest it's got is about 34.4. So Nvidia has not gone below 34 over that time. And the one thing that I would mention here is that these are both roughly the numbers that I would be comfortable getting into both of these companies. Honestly, I prefer to get them both a little bit lower, but I probably would start to nibble a little bit if I could get it at either of these valuations. The problem is AMD, you're looking at about $58 a share. Nvidia, you're looking at, I think it's in the 70s to get that low. So Nvidia's literally got to come down about 55 to 60%, just back of the napkin math for that to happen. AMD's got to come down like what, 10%, so maybe a little bit more. So AMD is probably the one that is more likely to hit that mark. But again, Nvidia is the better company, just looking at the numbers. But you're paying a lot more for it based on current prices, which is why AMD probably becomes a better deal sooner. So another thing I wanted to do is compare it to probably my favorite, semiconductor stock. Let's throw Taiwan Semiconductor in there as well. Probably my second favorite one. And these are the only other two that I actually have invested in, full stop. Again, so over that time, Broadcom's average is 12, just under 12. Current latest is 14.83. Taiwan Semiconductor, their low is 18.8. Current is 25.5. So what you'll notice is both of these companies, these other companies, are trading much cheaper, even current prices, and even the average, right? I mean, the highest Broadcom has gotten over the last few years is 20.5. Taiwan Semiconductor has gone up quite a bit, but let's go back even further, just out of curiosity here. So we go back to, let's say, let's go back 10 years. The lowest Broadcom has gotten, the average for Broadcom over that time is actually 20. So it has been higher at times, but recently it's lower. The average for Taiwan Semiconductor is 48, which is, it's even more expensive yet. So in my opinion, if you're looking for a semiconductor stock to buy today, you're buying Broadcom or Taiwan Semiconductor, assuming you want one of the larger cap ones. I think that there's some smaller cap ones that are good. Microchip Technologies is one other one I like. But again, the problem I have with AMD and Nvidia is they're both solid companies. Nvidia looks like a very good company, but you are paying a hefty premium to buy Nvidia and even still a somewhat of a premium to buy AMD. In my opinion, you should never buy a stock unless it's growing just insanely fast, and it has no other issues, with an over 40 price to free cash flow, and preferably below 30 price to free cash flow. And that's even if it's growing very well, right? People say, oh, it's growing really well, but it's like, you got to be growing very nicely, like insanely nicely to pay, to want to, if you should pay over 30 price to free cash flow, right? Which is why I want to get AMD at like mid 20s, maybe 27 at the most. Nvidia no higher than 35, right? Those are the absolute, those are the maxes that I would pay for those companies. Again, the problem is that that's the lowest they've gotten over the last 10 years, right? So the chances of me ever getting in on these companies, I did actually get in on AMD over the last bull run. I didn't get nearly all the returns. I got like a 20-30% return and hopped out, even though I could have got like 100. So still good, but not nearly as good as it could have been. But I don't see, and that, again, that was still when I was a rookie, but I don't see me ever getting into these companies unless we get a major recession. AMD definitely would get that low. I don't even know, even if we do get let's say we go down another 20-30% on the S&P. I don't know I don't even think Nvidia would get that low. Like, it would have to come down literally 60% to go below that. So I don't see that happening. it's possible, right? It's possible because free cash flow can change over time, right? So if they're growing free cash flow very, very, very nicely and the stock price isn't going up is to compensate for that, well, then technically it could. But I just don't see Nvidia getting cheap enough in the foreseeable future. Like I say, barring a major recession, maybe something going on in the semiconductor sector. That's another thing that a lot of people aren't talking about right now when it comes to the semiconductor sector is that people still think that there's a chip shortage, which there isn't. There is for some things, but as a whole, there is no chip shortage right now. So I think that I would prefer to get, honestly, I think that you can dollar cost average into Broadcom and Taiwan Semiconductor. Again, my opinion, do your own due diligence, like I always say. Those companies are cheap enough that I think you can be buying them at current prices. But AMD, Nvidia, just too expensive. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, hit that like and subscribe. If you have any comments, I'd like to hear that too. And also stay tuned for more as well.